in a lot of lakes around the country, almost any lake you go to, you're going to have a big riprap bank of some sort. We're on a huge dam face here.
Probably close to a mile long.
And we're going to show you a technique that's super easy. If you get tired during the day when you're learning these techniques, this is an excellent way to catch your breath and relax a little bit. But it's very, very effective, and it's easy to do.
And the neat thing about this technique is seasonal. If you go out in the winter time, it's getting later in the day, the water's warming up a little bit, the number one key is you look at your graph. If you start seeing fish suspended at a certain depth, say 25 to 35, and they're not coming up or down, they're staying in that comfort zone for them, that's the time that you have to put a bait in that strike zone for a longer period of time. And this is where it comes down to like a long line troll. And there's some techniques on doing this that will improve your catch ratio 100%. And I'm going to start off the simplest way is basically you take a swim bait and it's weighted or suspended, or a slow sinking one. But the key is you have to make sure you find the proper depth on where this is running at all times. So what we're doing now is we're coming down the face of a dam and we're looking at my graph, and I'm going to hold right about 35 feet of water. The whole key is figuring out where your bait's going to be in that water column at all times. So right off the bat, I'm going to put it in the water and I'm going to click free spool. And you're going to watch my line off my reel go down. At the same time, I've already picked a speed. You look right here off the top of my reel. And I've picked a speed on my trolling motor that I will mark with a grease pencil. So I know exact speed no matter what time or what happens. Okay, right here, when you see this bait fall down, oop, there's a hit. Got a hit thing already. You let it go down and it hits, and watch my spool, it'll stop moving. Okay, right there. You see how it stops? Oh, another hit. That hit the bottom, okay? Once it hit the bottom, oh, there's another hit. Once it hit the bottom, I know that the depth is right. So now I'm going to keep at a constant speed right here, okay? So we're going. Now what's happening, and since this is not a build lure, just the weight of the line, the friction of the line, the lure is rising up in the water column. Well, we already know it hit back there. Now what I'm going to do now is I've gone for about 15-20 seconds. I'm going to push the release and watch this thing fall again. It goes down, it goes down, it goes down. You count, it hits the bottom. It hit the bottom again. So now at this speed, mark the trolling motor, take a pin, you mark your line, and I'm at a constant. So I know I'm approximately a foot off the bottom, going at this speed in this direction. If I get a hit, I catch a fish, I bring in, I come back right up to 35 foot of water, I can let it right out to the same mark of my line, mark of my trolling motor, and I'm instantly at a place where I know I've caught fish.
Plus, one other thing is it's flat calm today. But if you've got a wind pushing you, this can also be
see that hit?
This can also be a tournament tactic, because you can get the wind pushing you like this. You don't even have to be on the trolling motor. You just use it to reposition your line of troll and let the wind push you. And those are the days when everybody else runs to the coves to hide from the wind, and you're out in the middle of it using it to your advantage on a technique that's really easy.
Now the neat thing about this also is I'm watching my TV screen while I'm doing this, watching your sonar. If I see, I know I'm in 35 foot of water, and all of a sudden in 20 foot of water, boom, I see a fish suspended. I know he's suspended looking for something to eat. What I'm going to do is now I've kind of calculated out how much line I have. You could actually find out the total distance is if you reel in from your marked line and count your revolutions. You could add 21 inches per revolutions, count your revolutions, and calculate out exactly how far behind the boat you are. Then what happens is, I know I'm 32 foot of water and 35. I see a fish 20 feet down. Now I calculate out, I'm 100 and something feet back, I'm going approximately 2 miles an hour. You calculate on your watch how many feet per second, right before you get to where the fish is behind the boat. Now what you could do is reel up 5 or 6 times, bring that lure up in the water column, because it brings friction on the bait and the line, comes right up to where the fish is. You have a better shot of that fish attacking that lure. If you don't get hit, you pop it a couple times, you free spool, you let your lure go back down to the bottom, should be right to where that line's at, the mark on your line. Right there, you see it slack, you know you're on the bottom, you take a line, you pop it, should be pretty close to your mark on your fishing line, and you're set to go again. So now, no matter if I see fish on the bottom, 10, 15 feet up in the water column, I could fish each one of these fish as I go by it, going down a mile of shoreline. One of the things why you do this also is if we're coming up to a spot, say you're coming up parallel to a shore and there's a good point or a ridge that comes out or some type of break or a hump, you calculate this knowing that I'm only out about 30-40 seconds behind the boat. Calculate out my line. I know I'm probably 110 feet, back, and wherever I hit the point where I need to make an adjustment, it's going to take me 25 seconds or 30 seconds before my lure actually hits that same spot. So we're going to come up to a point. I'm holding the lure here. I'm watching my graph, and when that point comes up, I know I can pass the point for about 15 seconds. I have to turn my motor on high and make the turn, because if I make a turn without changing the speed of the lure, the speed of my boat, the lure will actually drop in the water column. So I gotta kick it in high gear and make that turn, and I can actually make that lure run up the ridge and turn with the boat, just like a bait fish would do in natural presentation, and that's what's gonna trigger some of your bigger fish, instead of just going straight ahead and running right into the point and you're snagged and then you lose that presentation. Get a hit?
Yep.
So right now we're about 29, 30
Got
feet.
him.
There you go. Good fish. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the trolling motor going, so I keep pressure on that. Mike's got a fish going right now. He's going to keep a low rod tip, and we're going to bring the fish in. And this was real simple. We just got down on the bottom. It hasn't
Right
been
back
more
behind
than
you, Brian. He's
10
coming
seconds.
up.
Ooh, nice fish. Good fish just came up and ate a swim bait doing the troll. Now this is the simplest thing you could do. I mean,
Yeah,
if
that
somebody,
That was too easy.
yep, too easy.
But he rattled it. I took a couple of wraps, let it back down, and he took it the second time.
And that's what we were explaining before. If you do get that
coming
hit,
up right over
you
here.
swing, you bring it back down and reload, because a lot of time that fish will come up and hit it.
Good quality fish. Look at him, man. He just wanted
Nice
that. Look at that. Look
fish.
how he ate that.
I got it, Mike.
That is what it is all about.
That's a nice bass.
And look how, I mean, he wanted it bad,
Right.
and this is after a couple of little taps. I mean, he tapped it like a bluegill, probably tasted it,
Right.
took a couple quick reels.
Well, like we were saying, fish comes up and hits it, boom, Mike set the hook once, that lure come up in the water column, the fish came back, ate it again, Mike rolled down, stuck it. So remember, make sure you keep on this. A lot of people miss a lot of fish because they stop after they hit the first hit. You got to keep going.
I mean, he is pinned. Now, this is the thing. This isn't a very big swim bait, really, by our standards. What is this? 7 inches?
Yeah, it's about 7-inch swim bait.
People will look at that in the tackle store and say, man, that's huge. But this is what?
I tell you what, that's a solid fish, and a lot of people go their entire lifetime and never get a fish that size.